You ever notice how people always think they've got women figured out? They sit around, they whisper, they laugh, and they say, "Oh, women like this, women want that." And you know what? Most of the time, they couldn't be more wrong, especially when it comes to older women. Older women, they don't have time for the nonsense. They've lived, they've seen, they've tasted the highs, survived the lows, and they are not about to waste their precious energy on somebody who doesn't know how to show up. But let me tell you something. There's a secret, a little fire that wakes up in them when a man does one particular thing, and most men overlook it because they think it's something bigger, something flashy, something loud. But no, the truth is simpler and much more powerful. Older women secretly love men who make them feel seen. That's it, not stared at, not ogled, not treated like a trophy. Seen, and when I say seen, I mean really seen. A man who listens to the little details, the way she orders her coffee, the way she laughs when something truly hits her soul, the way her face softens when she's remembering a story. A man who takes those details, tucks them away, and brings them back later like treasure. You think she doesn't notice. She notices everything. And when you do that, she feels alive, she feels valued, and she feels something that many people stop giving her as she gets older. Attention that isn't shallow, but intentional. And here's the thing. Confidence plays a role, but it's not the chest, thumping, loud kind. It's that quiet confidence, the kind that walks into a room without needing to steal the air out of it. The kind that says, "I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I'm here because I want to be, not because I need to prove myself." Older women light up around that kind of energy because it matches their own. They've done the game of insecurity. They've dealt with men who don't know what they want, and they've grown tired of it. What they secretly adore is a man who doesn't flinch when she speaks her truth, a man who doesn't get intimidated when she has her own money, her own goals, her own stories. In fact, he leans in closer. He wants to hear them all. Do you know how rare that is, to not just tolerate her strength, but to celebrate it? That, right there, is where the sparks fly. And let's not skip the way he carries himself in the small moments. Not just on the date, not just when he's trying to impress her. No, it's in the way he talks to the waitress, the way he treats the taxi driver, the way he carries respect into every interaction. An older woman is watching, always watching, and when she sees a man who respects people not because of status, but because they're human, she feels safe. She feels proud to stand next to him, and secretly, she loves it. But I'll tell you something else that many men never understand. Older women don't need you to solve their problems. They don't need you to swoop in like some movie hero. They need you to hold space. That's it. When she's had a long day, when the world has tried to dim her light, she doesn't need fixing. She needs presence. She needs that moment where you look at her and say, "I hear you. I'm here." That level of emotional maturity, that level of groundedness, it's intoxicating to her. She might never say it out loud, but inside, she is melting. And don't think she's not playful. Don't think she doesn't crave that spark, that tease, that dance of words. Older women love a man who can flirt with subtlety, who knows how to make her laugh without trying too hard, who can be light when the moment calls for it, and deep when the moment shifts. That adaptability is magnetic. It tells her that you are not a one-note song but a symphony with different movements, and she wants to hear them all. Here's what most people miss. Older women don't fall for perfection. They fall for authenticity. They want the man who can say, "I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn." They want the man who can admit when he's wrong without his ego shattering. That's the secret sauce. Because she's not impressed by the mask anymore. She's lived through that. She's pulled the masks off. She's seen what's underneath, and she doesn't have the patience for it anymore. She wants the man who stands there bare faced and unafraid. That's what wins her heart, and let me whisper this in your ear. Consistency, oh yes, older women secretly love men who are consistent. Don't tell her you'll call and then disappear. Don't show up one day with fireworks and vanish the next. She doesn't want fireworks. She wants a steady flame that doesn't burn out the moment the wind blows. Be consistent with your words, your actions, your presence, because when you are, she relaxes. She doesn't have to second guess you. She doesn't have to wonder. She knows you are what you say you are. That security is everything. And while we're here, let's talk about desire. Not the kind that's selfish, not the kind that just wants to take. No, the kind that admires, that appreciates, that makes her feel desirable not just for her body, but for her mind, her spirit, her very being. When a man looks at an older woman with genuine hunger for all that she is, not just the surface, she feels that deep in her bones. That kind of desire, that's a revival, that's youth and wisdom colliding, and she secretly loves it more than she will ever admit. So, what is it really? This secret that stirs older women's hearts. It's not money, though she won't complain if you've got it. It's not looks, though she'll smile if you take care of yourself. It's not even status, because she already has her own. No, it's the way you show up, the way you listen, the way you steady yourself, the way you make her feel like she's not invisible, but illuminated. That is the thing, that is the move, that is the quiet action that makes her fall, even if she swears she wasn't planning on falling at all. And the beautiful part, once she feels that, once she knows you've got that magic in you, she won't just love you in secret. She'll love you boldly, fiercely, unapologetically, because older women don't play games. When they find what they secretly love, they hold onto it with both hands. And that, my friends, is the truth. You want to know what really shakes an older woman to her core. It's when a man has patience. Not the lazy kind, not the kind that hides behind excuses, but the kind that says, I'm not in a rush with you. I'm going to let this unfold. You see, by the time she's older, she has already lived through the whirlwind of impulsive love, the late night promises, the fireworks that fade by morning. She knows what it's like to be rushed into something that turns hollow. So when a man slows it down, when he's not desperate to win her in a single night, when he allows her to breathe, to settle into him, to feel him without pressure, that patience makes her secretly fall. She feels safe, and she feels desired not for what she can give right now, but for who she is in her entirety. And don't think for a second that older women don't crave adventure. They may not shout it from the rooftops, but they crave a man who can pull them into the unexpected. Not reckless adventure, not irresponsibility. I'm talking about the small surprises, the thoughtful plans, the way he says, "Get dressed, I'm taking you somewhere." And suddenly she's laughing in a place she never would have thought to go. Maybe it's a late-night jazz bar tucked in a corner of the city. Maybe it's a quiet hike up a trail where the sunrise paints her face in gold. Maybe it's dancing in the living room when there's no music, just because the moment felt right. That kind of spontaneity, mixed with intention, brings her back to a youthful joy she thought was long gone. And in those moments she secretly thinks, this man, he knows how to live. Now let's talk about honesty. A lot of men think honesty is just about not lying, but it's deeper than that. It's about transparency. When he says what he feels without sugarcoating it, without hiding behind charm, she feels the weight of his truth. And older women love that, even when it stings, because she'd rather sit in the discomfort of an honest word than swim in the sweetness of a lie. She's had enough lies in her lifetime, enough empty promises. Honesty, raw and unpolished, feels like oxygen. And oh, when a man knows how to communicate desire with more than just his hands, You know what I'm talking about. The look across the table that lingers a beat too long. The voice that drops just slightly, not forced, but naturally heavy with want. The way he notices her dress. The way he mentions the color of her lipstick. The way he tells her that the way she carries herself drives him insane. That verbal appreciation, that subtle but unmistakable expression of desire, it makes her pulse race. Because older women aren't starved for compliments. They're starved for genuine ones. They can tell when it's real, and when it's real, it penetrates deeper than any touch. Let me give you a picture. Imagine her sitting at a dinner table, the restaurant buzzing around her, but he leans in and says, "You know, you have this way of pausing before you smile, like you're deciding if the world deserves it, and every time you let it out, I feel lucky just to be here to see it. Now, tell me that doesn't make her heart race. Tell me she doesn't go home later, replaying that sentence over and over, secretly glowing from the inside out. That's the kind of thing men overlook, but older women, they treasure it like it's gold. And I'll tell you something else they adore, though they may not confess it. Playful dominance, not control, not ownership, but the subtle, grounded energy of a man who knows how to take the lead when the moment calls for it, who knows when to guide her by the hand, when to whisper, "I've got this." That balance between respect and leadership makes her weak, because it allows her to rest, to soften, to let go of some of the weight she's been carrying for years. You see, older women are used to running things. They've raised families, built careers, made tough decisions. When a man arrives who doesn't shrink beside her, but also doesn't try to overshadow her, when he knows when to gently but firmly take the wheel, she feels it deep in her chest. That's the kind of thing she secretly craves but rarely admits. But don't get it twisted. She also loves when he lets her lead. When he's secure enough to step back and say, "Show me your world." When he admires the way she moves, learns from her, celebrates her expertise. Because that's when she knows he's not threatened by her brilliance, but drawn to it. And in that dynamic, she feels freedom. She feels balance. That balance, my friend, is everything. And oh, let's not forget about humor. You want to know what melts her. Not the rehearsed jokes, not the corny lines, but the man who can laugh at himself. The man who trips on the sidewalk and grins instead of sulks. The man who can tell a story about his mistakes and turn it into comedy. That humility wrapped in laughter, it's irresistible. Because older women, they've carried enough heaviness, enough seriousness. When a man can bring levity without dismissing her depth, when he can make her laugh in a way that makes her stomach ache and her eyes water, that is medicine to her soul. Now, I want to take you into another scene. Imagine she's had a long day, the world has drained her, and she doesn't even feel like talking. Most men would try to fill the silence, but this man, he doesn't. He sits there beside her, pours her a glass of wine, and simply says, "You don't have to talk. I'm here." And he means it. He doesn't poke, doesn't prod. He lets the silence do the work, and slowly she leans into him. That, right there, is intimacy. And older women, they love intimacy more than grand gestures. They love the quiet moments that say everything without saying much at all. Do you see the pattern here? It's not about flash. It's not about charm. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about presence, patience, respect, and desire that runs deeper than surface attraction. It's about the way he treats her as a whole human, not a role, not a stereotype, not an object. And she will never shout this from the rooftops, but deep down, secretly, she aches for it. She doesn't care if you drive the newest car. She doesn't care if your body looks like it came out of a magazine. She doesn't even care if you're younger or older than her. What she cares about is whether you make her feel alive, whether you make her feel safe, whether you remind her that she is still seen, still wanted, still radiant. That is the secret. That is the fire. That is what older women secretly love when a man has the courage, the depth, and the presence to give it. Picture this. She's walking into a crowded room. Maybe it's a dinner party. Maybe it's a lounge. Maybe it's a family gathering. She's dressed sharp, confident, self-assured. But she knows eyes won't land on her the same way they did when she was 25. And then there you are, the man who doesn't just glance but actually looks. Not hungry, not desperate, but present. Your gaze tells her she's the center of the world in that moment. Do you know what that does to her? It rewrites her whole evening. Suddenly she feels a spark under her skin. Because so many pass her by without noticing the magic still burning in her, and you took the time to see it. That's the kind of thing she secretly craves, but would never say out loud. And let's talk about depth. Older women live for conversation that goes beyond the weather, beyond small talk. They want a man who can dive in with them, who can talk about the things that keep them awake at night, who can listen without judgment, who can share his own truths without hiding behind bravado. That late night talk that stretches on until the clock says morning, where stories spill out, where silence feels comfortable, where vulnerability is exchanged like sacred currency. That is where her heart opens. She doesn't want another conversation about the latest gadget or gossip or shallow filler. She wants to know what scares you, what drives you, what you've lost, what you're still chasing. And when you give her that, she gives you herself in return. Do you know how many women walk through life with their brilliance dimmed because nobody bothers to ask? When you're the man who says, "Tell me your story," and then actually listens, she feels that lightning strike. She thinks, this man doesn't just want me, he wants to know me. That is rare, and rare is irresistible. And don't underestimate the power of small gestures. The way you place your hand on the small of her back as you guide her through a door. The way you pull her chair out not as an act of showmanship, but as a natural extension of your respect. The way you text her good morning, not because you're trying to win points, but because you truly thought of her. These things might seem tiny to you, but to her, they're monumental. Because older women, they've grown tired of men who only show up in big, empty gestures. The flowers that wilt after a week, the words that sound sweet but mean nothing. What she secretly loves is consistency in the little things, because the little things build trust. Now imagine her sitting across from you at a cafe. She's telling a story, and halfway through, she forgets where she was going with it. She laughs at herself, brushes it off. Most men would gloss over it, but you lean in and say, "I love the way you tell stories. I could listen to you all day." Watch what happens then. She glows, she relaxes. She suddenly feels like she's allowed to be imperfect with you, and that is a rare kind of intimacy. Another secret, touch. Not the obvious kind, not the rushed kind, but the thoughtful, intentional touch. The brush of your hand against hers when you're walking side by side, the fingertips lightly grazing her arm as you make a point, the way you tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, slow and deliberate. Those are the touches that send electricity through her body, because they tell her you are present, attentive, and tuned into her. Older women don't fall for the man who grabs. They fall for the man who touches like he's reading Braille, like he's learning her language one small gesture at a time. And let me tell you about trust. Older women secretly love a man who is reliable, who keeps his word, who shows up when he says he will. That might sound basic, but in a world full of broken promises, it's rare. You want to melt an older woman. Be the man who does what he says every time. You don't need to say much after that. Your actions will do the talking. Let me paint another scene. She's been invited somewhere she doesn't really want to go. Maybe it's a stiff work event. Maybe it's a dinner where she knows she won't fit in. She sighs, she feels the weight of it. But you step in, take her hand, and say, if you want to skip it, let's skip it. We'll make our own night. And just like that, she feels freedom. Because you gave her permission to choose her joy over obligation. That's something many women struggle to give themselves. But when you step in and make it okay, she feels seen, she feels supported, and she secretly loves you for it. Now, older women also secretly love a man who isn't afraid of silence. Most men rush to fill every gap with chatter, nervous laughter, noise. But silence is intimate. When she can sit next to you in quiet and it doesn't feel awkward, it feels full. That's when she realizes you're different. That's when she realizes she can rest around you. And resting, for a woman who's spent her life holding everything together, is one of the most seductive gifts she can receive. Let's get into desire again. Not just sexual desire, though that's part of it. I mean desire for her essence. A man who notices the way her eyes sharpen when she's passionate about something. A man who leans in when she talks about her craft, her art, her work, her garden, whatever lights her soul. That hunger for her whole being is magnetic. She doesn't just want to be wanted in the bedroom. She wants to be wanted in the kitchen, in the office, in the way she moves through life. And when she senses that hunger in you, when she feels that your desire stretches across all of her, she is hooked. And let's not forget kindness, true kindness, not the performative kind, but the natural kind. The way you talk to strangers, the way you look out for the small guy, the way you handle the people the world ignores. That kindness tells her you won't just be good to her when it's convenient. It tells her you have a heart that beats steady, and that is irresistible. Older women know better than anyone. Good looks fade, money comes and goes, but kindness that lasts. Here's another picture. She's out with you, and a younger woman walks by. Most men, their eyes follow, even if they don't mean to. But your focus stays locked on her, not because you force it, but because you're genuinely captivated. That moment, that loyalty without words, it fills her with warmth she won't talk about. She secretly loves that she doesn't have to compete. That you've chosen her, fully, without wavering, and let me whisper another truth to you. Older women secretly love men who dream, not just men who sit comfortably in what they have, but men who still have fire in their chest for something bigger. It doesn't matter if the dream is grand or simple. Maybe you want to build a business, maybe you want to travel, maybe you want to write a book. Whatever it is, when she sees that fire in you, she feels hers ignite again. She thinks this man still believes, this man is alive. And she wants to be near that kind of energy because it's contagious. And finally, let's talk about passion. Passion not just in romance, but in life. The way you pour yourself into what you love. The way you speak with energy, move with intention, give with all of yourself. That passion is magnetic, and older women crave it. Because passion makes her feel like the world still has color, like love still has heat, like living still has meaning. Think of the power in being a man who remembers. She tells you once about her favorite song from years ago, and months later, when you're driving, you put it on. She doesn't say anything at first, but her heart, it's racing because you remembered, you listened. You carried a piece of her with you and brought it back at the right time. That small act tells her you're not just hearing words, you're absorbing them. And older women secretly love a man who holds onto their details like treasures. Imagine her cooking in the kitchen, the sound of pots and pans clattering. She's humming something under her breath, not even realizing she's doing it. You walk in, lean against the counter, and say, "That little tune you do, it's stuck in my head." She laughs, shakes her head, pretends it's nothing, but inside, she's melting, because you notice the things nobody else does. And when a woman feels noticed in that way, it stirs something deep in her chest. Older women also love a man who shows restraint. not because they don't want desire, but because they want it to simmer. They love when you don't rush, when you sit close enough that she feels your heat, but you don't pounce, when you brush past her in a way that leaves a trail, but then pull back, letting her wonder when the next touch will come. That self-control, that tease, it makes her crave you more than if you had just grabbed her. Because restraint shows discipline, and discipline is intoxicating. And don't underestimate curiosity. A man who asks her questions, not just about her past, but about her present. A man who wants to know her thoughts, her opinions, her perspective. Maybe she's explaining a book she's reading, and instead of just nodding, you say, "Tell me more. Why do you think that character did what they did?" That curiosity tells her you're not just killing time with her, you're investing in her mind, and older women secretly love men who hunger for their intelligence as much as for their body. Here's a picture. She's sitting on the couch, her hair messy, glasses perched on her nose, flipping through some old photos. She sighs, says, "I can't believe how much time has passed." Most men would let the moment slide, but you take the photo from her hand, study it, and say, "You're even more beautiful now." She scoffs, maybe rolls her eyes, but inside, she's glowing. Because you didn't compare her to her younger self like the world often does. You uplifted her now in the present. That is powerful. Older women adore men who bring calm into their chaos, not by fixing everything, but by being steady. Maybe she's panicked about something, work, family, finances. Her energy is sharp, scattered. Instead of feeding the storm, you stay grounded. You breathe slower, speak softer, and little by little, she sinks with your rhythm. That calm, it's magnetic. She secretly loves it because it gives her permission to let go of the weight for a moment. And oh, older women absolutely melt for men who can hold contrast. A man who can be playful and serious, strong and gentle, loud and quiet. She loves when you can tease her one moment, then look at her with a seriousness that sends shivers down her spine the next. Because that shows depth, that shows layers, that shows she's not dealing with a flat character, but a whole man with dimensions. And those dimensions keep her hooked, always wondering which version of you she'll see in the next moment. Imagine this, you're walking together, and she's talking about something from her past, a story that maybe carries some pain. You don't cut her off, you don't try to fix it, you don't brush it away, you just walk beside her, listening, and when she's done, you take her hand and squeeze it. That's it. That single squeeze says, "I hear you, I'm with you." And she will never forget it. That kind of quiet support is a secret key into her heart. Older women love men who create safety, not just physical safety, though that matters, but emotional safety. The kind of safety where she can cry without feeling judged, where she can share a wild fantasy without worrying about rejection, where she can reveal her scars without fearing disgust. When you give her that safety, she will open to you in ways that are rare and profound, and she may not ever say the words, but inside, she will love you fiercely for it. Let's talk about independence. Older women love men who have their own lives, who don't need her to fill every gap of their existence, who have passions, friendships, goals outside of her. Because when she sees that, she knows you're not clinging. She knows you're with her because you choose her, not because you're desperate for her. That independence is sexy. It makes her respect you more, and respect for her is the foundation of desire. Now, picture this. You're walking down the street and it starts to rain. Most people grumble, run for cover, but you grab her hand, spin her around and say, "Come on, let's dance in it." She laughs, protests at first, but then she's laughing harder, soaked, twirling under the streetlights. That moment becomes a memory she'll carry forever. Because older women secretly love men who can turn the ordinary into extraordinary, who can make her feel alive again in ways she didn't expect. And let me whisper another truth. Older women love men who take care of themselves. Not just physically, though staying fit and healthy matters, but emotionally and mentally. A man who invests in his growth, who reads, who learns, who heals. A man who doesn't drag his unresolved baggage into every interaction. That kind of self-awareness is magnetic because it shows maturity, and maturity is what separates you from the rest. Here's another scene. You're both out to dinner, and she's telling you about her favorite dish. The waiter brings the food, and before she takes a bite, you say, "You first. I want to see your face when you taste it." She laughs, blushes, maybe rolls her eyes, but when she takes that bite, she feels cherished, because you weren't rushing into your own pleasure. You paused for hers. That kind of attentiveness is rare, and it's the kind of thing she secretly adores. And do not forget humor in the bedroom. Older women love a man who doesn't treat intimacy like a choreographed performance, who can laugh when something silly happens, who can keep it light without losing the passion, because that blend of fun and fire makes her feel relaxed, free, unashamed. She secretly loves when you make the bedroom a playground, not a stage. And finally, older women love men who stay curious about them, who don't settle into routine, who don't assume they've seen all her sides, who keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep pulling out new layers. Because older women have depths most people never bother to explore. And when you're the man who keeps diving, she will keep opening over and over again. Think of what it feels like when a man really pays attention to timing. Not rushing in, not dragging his feet, but sensing exactly when to move closer, when to pull back, when to speak, when to stay quiet. That sense of rhythm is something older women secretly fall for, because life has taught them that most people move too fast or too slow. But a man who seems to dance in step with her, who can read the moment like music, that man feels different. That man feels rare. Picture her sitting in her favorite chair. Maybe it's by a window, maybe it's tucked in a corner, a blanket wrapped around her. She's reading, lost in her world. You walk by, lean down, kiss the top of her head, and walk on without interrupting her. She pauses, smiles softly, then goes back to her book. That little moment stays with her, because it says you love her without needing to claim all her attention. And older women secretly love men who give affection without demanding a return in that instant. And here's something else they'll never shout from the rooftops. Older women love men who smell good, not overbearing cologne, but subtle, clean, warm. That scent that lingers after you've left the room. Because scent is memory, and memory is emotion, and when she breathes you in, she wants to feel comfort and excitement all at once. That detail might seem small, but to her, it's enormous. Older women also love when you know how to hold eye contact, not in a way that feels forced, not in a way that tries to dominate, but in a way that's steady and real. When you look into her eyes while she's talking, when you hold that gaze just long enough for her to feel your attention, she feels desired on a soul level. Because too many people look past her, through her, around her. You look at her, and that to her is magnetic. Think about conversation again. Imagine she shares a dream she once had but gave up on years ago. She says it casually, maybe even with a laugh, like she doesn't take it seriously anymore. Most men would let it slide, but you lean forward and say, "Why not now?" She looks at you, surprised. And in that moment, you've breathed life back into something she thought was dead. That's the kind of man she secretly loves, the one who reminds her she's not finished yet, who reminds her she can still chase, still reach, still want. And let's not forget gentleness, a man who knows how to be gentle without being weak. The way he touches her cheek, the way he helps her with her coat, the way he speaks softly when the moment is tender. Gentleness is strength under control, and older women recognize that. They secretly love it because it makes them feel cared for, not coddled, not diminished, but cherished. Picture this scene. It's late at night. You're lying together and she's staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. You don't pepper her with questions. You simply say, "What's on your mind?" And when she answers, you listen. Not with half an ear, not with distractions, but fully. That space, that listening, makes her feel safe enough to unravel. And when a woman feels safe enough to unravel, she will let you deeper than you ever imagined. Older women secretly love men who make them laugh at unexpected times. Maybe she's irritated, maybe she's stressed, maybe she's stuck in her head. And you crack a joke, make a funny face, or do something ridiculous. Suddenly, she's laughing in spite of herself. That laughter is healing. It cuts through her walls, and she secretly loves that you can shift her energy with nothing more than your playfulness. And don't forget the way you move, the way you walk into a room with purpose, the way you carry yourself without slouching into invisibility or puffing up into arrogance. Posture, presence, ease. These things speak louder than words. Older women have an eye for that. They notice it instantly. And when you move like a man who knows himself, who is grounded, she feels it in her body before she even realizes it in her mind. Older women also secretly love men who aren't afraid of silence in intimacy. Imagine being in bed together, and instead of rushing, you pause. You just breathe her in, hold her close, linger in the stillness. That pause makes her feel treasured. Because it says, you're not there for the act alone, you're there for the connection. That kind of intimacy feeds her in ways words never could. And let's not skip over ambition. Not ambition in the sense of endless grind, but the ambition to keep growing, to keep evolving, to keep reaching towards something. Maybe it's learning a new skill, maybe it's traveling, maybe it's improving yourself. Whatever it is, when she sees you striving, she feels inspired, and inspiration is one of the most powerful aphrodisiacs. She secretly loves being with a man who pushes himself, because it encourages her to keep pushing too. Picture her waking up beside you. Hair a mess, no makeup, groggy. She's not at her polished best, but you roll over, kiss her shoulder, and say, "You're gorgeous." She'll shake her head, laugh, maybe even say, "You're crazy." But inside, she's glowing, because you saw beauty in her rawness, in her natural state. That makes her feel loved in a way deeper than any compliment given when she's dressed up. Older women love men who create rituals. The little things you do together that become traditions. Maybe it's Sunday morning coffee. Maybe it's a nightly walk. Maybe it's the way you always call at lunch just to say hi. Those rituals ground her, anchor her, and give her something to look forward to. And the consistency of them, that's where love grows. She secretly loves the man who builds rituals with her, because it shows commitment without needing grand declarations. And oh, they love when a man is good with his hands, not just in intimacy, but in life, fixing something in the house, cooking a meal, playing an instrument, creating with skill. That ability to use your hands with confidence and care is endlessly attractive, because it speaks to competence. And competence is deeply, quietly sexy. Think of this. She's telling you about her day, and instead of waiting for your turn to speak, you actually lean in and say, "Tell me more." Those 3 words, "tell me more," can unlock her in ways you can't imagine, because they show that you're not rushing her, not cutting her short, but inviting her to expand. That invitation feels rare, and rare always feels irresistible. And older women love men who can take charge in small ways, not in controlling ways, but in thoughtful ways, making the reservation, planning the evening, choosing the wine. Those small acts of leadership make her feel cared for, like she can relax into your strength. She secretly loves when you take the reins just enough to let her rest. And here's something simple but powerful: gratitude. When you look at her and say, "I'm lucky to be here with you," and mean it, she feels it. Gratitude is magnetic because older women don't want to be taken for granted. They want to know they're appreciated. And when you show it, not just in words but in action, she secretly loves you for it.